Roe v. Wade affords me the right to terminate a pregnancy, and to do so free from all restraint or interference of others.
Ever wanted to learn more about the history of women's rights in America?
I'm told I have a right to privacy. I think this would be the sort of thing it's referring to.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 milestones in U.S. women's history. For this list, we're looking at events that further the advancement of women's rights in the United States, rather than focusing on the accomplishments of individual women. Although Sandra Day O'Connor's appointment to the Supreme Court and Hillary Clinton becoming the first female major political party presidential nominee were important steps, they didn't necessarily affect the lives of women in general.
It finally happened. She won.
Number 10. Seneca Falls Convention. The women's rights movement was arguably sparked at a convention in upstate New York in July of 1848. Renowned suffragette Elizabeth Cady Stanton was one of the organizers of the event, which aimed to discuss the social, civil, and religious rights of women. Both men and women attended the convention, at which the many issues discussed and debated included women's right to vote, education, and equality in the family and job market. This convention is considered to be one of the most important events in inciting the issue of women's suffrage, though it would still be over 70 years before women actually got the right to vote nationwide. Number 9. The Feminine Mystique is published.
The Feminine Mystique has made us feel it's unfeminine to use our rights, to really want equality, to want to take part in the decisions of the world.
In the late 1950s, activist and feminist Betty Friedan conducted a survey of her former classmates at the all-girls Smith College. Discovering that many of them were dissatisfied with their roles as mothers and housewives, Friedan was inspired to write The Feminine Mystique. The book has been credited with starting second-wave feminism in the US, and many of the issues raised in the book are still relevant today. Less than a decade later, second-wave feminists Gloria Steinem and Doria Pittman Hughes published the first edition of Ms., a liberal feminist magazine that expanded on the topics that Friedan first introduced.
A lot of my girlfriends were getting married straight out of college, and I was thinking, I don't want to do that at all. But reading that book let me know that there were masses of women who felt differently.
Number 8. The Violence Against Women Act is introduced.
All women deserve the right to live free from fear, and that is what today is all about.
This federal law, which was drafted by Senator Joe Biden and signed by then-President Bill Clinton, recognized a need for a strategy to target violence against women in the U.S. $1.6 billion were invested in this initiative in order to give stiffer penalties to perpetrators and offer more extensive services for victims.
Go in the house! Go in the house! Go in the house!
Your mother had a little accident.
Efforts were made to provide legal aid to survivors of domestic violence, as well as programs to help immigrant women going through similar issues.
All of the 6 women slain in Vermont during 1993 died at the hands of an intimate partner or a family member.
According to reports by the White House, since this law was enacted, rates of domestic violence have decreased, and more people are reporting sexual and domestic violence to police.
We have, over the last, I'd say 20 years, when we started collecting data, been able to reduce the level of violence against adult women, domestic violence, by over 53%.
Number 7. Sex discrimination is banned in schools.
Well, I didn't like people to say, you can't do this, you won't be able to do it, nobody's going to support this. But all those things involve change and something new.
Title IX of the U.S. Education Amendments of 1972 banned all sex-based bias in American public schools. It asserts that no person should be excluded from any educational activity or be subjected to discrimination because of their sex.
We know that opening the doors for women to be in science and technology and engineering are hugely important, not just for the advancement of those women and their families, but for this country.
The biggest impact of Title IX has been on female athletics. In 1971, before the bill was passed, female participants accounted for only 7% of all high school varsity athletics. As of 2001, that number has jumped to 41.5% and is likely even higher today. The treatment of transgender students was regulated in 2014 under Title IX, instructing schools to treat students consistently with their preferred gender identity. Number 6. Pregnancy Discrimination Act is introduced.
The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 states that employers must treat pregnant women the same as, quote, other persons not so affected by pregnancy, but similar in their ability or inability to work.
Can you imagine if you could be legally fired from your job because you were pregnant? This federal statute is an amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and prohibits discrimination on the basis of pregnancy. It stipulates that a woman can't be denied a job opportunity or promotion because she is pregnant.
Legally, the law is on your side. You don't have to say if you're pregnant, nor should you have to.
It also assures that women are not forced to take mandatory maternity leave if they so choose.
Turns out, people like pregnant.
Oh my God.
The bigger you are, the bigger your numbers.
I was surprised because I feel the opposite.
This may have been an important step, but women are still only legally granted a 12-week period of unpaid leave following the birth of a child, though the leave may be paid if the employee has accrued it. As this can cause serious financial issues for new mothers, there's still a long way to go.
Seriously, if I could just have the thing and give it to you now, I totally would, but I'm guessing it looks probably like a sea monkey right now, and you know, we should let it get a little cuter,
yes.
Right?
Great.
Keep it in the oven.
Number 5. National Women's Suffrage Association is formed. The National Women's Suffrage Association, or NWSA, was formed by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton in an effort to promote voting rights for women. The NWSA was criticized by many for its opposition to the 15th Amendment, which gave voting rights to men of all races. The NWSA believed the amendment should also grant that right to people of both sexes. In 1869, Wyoming became the first state to grant women full voting rights, but it would be many years before this was applied nationwide. In 1878, the NWSA proposed the National Women's Suffrage Amendment, the 19th Amendment, which prohibits any U.S. citizen from being denied the right to vote on the basis of sex. Number 4. Birth control pills are approved for sale.
The birth control pill has been around since 1960, but by prescription only.
So, is it time to sell the pill over the counter?
In 1916, the first American birth control clinic was opened by Margaret Sanger, but it was almost immediately closed down after Sanger was arrested by an undercover cop. It's hard to imagine a world where women had so little control over their own bodies that birth control was actually illegal, but that was the case in the US for many years. The FDA approved the first oral contraceptive in 1960, but until 1972 it was still illegal in many states for unmarried couples to use any form of contraception. Regardless, the pill was an instant success, with over 6.5 million women using it only 5 years after its release, changing the sexual freedom of women forever.
I didn't do it to be popular. I did it because I am not going to get stuck in this dinky little town.
Number 3. Equal Pay Act provides pay equity.
We're discussing the Equal Pay Bill.
You want to get our party of good old boys to admit that the possession of a vagina doesn't automatically mean that a sister should get docked 32 cents on the dollar?
Though equal pay may still not be fully realized in America, the gender pay gap has undoubtedly been closing since the Equal Pay Act of 1963 was introduced. The idea behind the law is a simple one. Everyone, regardless of sex, should be paid the same salary for equal work.
50 years ago today, President Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act into law right here in the White House. He said it was basic to our democracy.
The following year, another law was passed specifying that any discrimination in the workplace was illegal. The widely reported statistics on the current wage gap show that women are paid 79% of what men are paid in their lifetimes. This number is controversial because there are many factors at play, but it shows that there is still more work to do to ensure full gender equality in the workplace.
I think some things haven't changed a lot, and I think women still have to work really hard to be equally recognized in some industries and in some professions and in some positions.
Number 2, abortion becomes legal nationwide.
That's right, Mississippi now has 4 times as many S's as it has abortion clinics.
Still one of the most controversial issues of our times, abortion laws have undergone years of discussion, debate, and change since the turn of the 20th century.
If you're Webster, the question is, where do you stand on Roe v. Wade? And the answer is, judicial rulings shouldn't be based on personal ideology, mine or anyone else's.
Until 1973, abortion was completely illegal in 30 states, and only allowed in specific circumstances, like in the case of incest or rape, in 20 others. In that same year, the Supreme Court made a landmark decision with Roe v. Wade to overturn all of the state laws that prohibited abortion.
My view is, regardless of whether you think prohibiting abortion is good or whether you think prohibiting abortion is bad, regardless of how you come out on that, my only point is the Constitution does not say anything about it.
Even in 2016, individual states still managed to find ways to make abortions nearly impossible for women to procure. This shows that there needs to be more federal intervention if the Supreme Court's 1973 decision is going to truly be upheld.
Very often, their fear was, and rightly I think, that as soon as word got out that they were willing to do abortions, they would be flooded with requests.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
certainly look more ladylike than we did 20 years ago. But the question is, are we? No. Abso-fucking-lutely not.
We would have considered all the facts.
Please, when was the last time you convicted anyone of marital rape? You don't know? I will tell you. Never.
I need to be able to reach into the entirety of the American population, because remember, it's an all-volunteer force.
Number 1, women are granted the right to vote.
In 1913, I wanted to march, but my husband asked me not to.
It's hard to believe that women were granted the right to vote in the United States only in 1920, considering how far women's rights have come since then. In 1913, the Congressional Union was formed and campaigned for women to be given the constitutional right to vote. Suffragists picketed the White House in 1917, and some even went on hunger strikes only to be force-fed by authorities. It took a lot of brave women many years of hard work to get there, but by 1920, women finally had the ability to fully participate in the democratic process. And they've been using that democratic strength to improve the conditions of women in America ever since.
If we embody our feminine might, intelligence with grace, strength with an iron will, no man can make us cower in our home.
Do you agree with our list? What do you think is the most important moment in women's history? For more educational top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to MsMojo.
Can you imagine how I felt standing there with Eric when the pharmacist handed me birth control pills?
Eric knows thanks a lot, Dad.